Walk down a street in Mumbai, and you can see extreme poverty existing literally in the shadow of massive, state-of-the-art wealth. We see this severe inequality across the globe, and it forces a very simple question. Why are some nations rich while others fail? Experts often rely on the ignorance hypothesis. They argue that poor countries struggle because their leaders simply don't know which economic policies to implement, or that tropical climates and rough geography naturally trap a nation in underdevelopment. But the map provides a perfect control group. Look at the 38th parallel. North and South Korea share the exact same topography, history, and cultural roots. On one side of this line, citizens live in one of the wealthiest, most technologically advanced societies on Earth. On the other, they endure chronic starvation. Geography, culture, and climate did not dictate this divide. The divergence on the Korean peninsula is the result of a systemic human choice. Korea is not an anomaly. Consider Nogales. It is a city sliced in half by a border wall. To the north is Arizona. To the south is Sonora, Mexico. The environment is identical. But in Nogales, Sonora, incomes are a fraction of what they are across the wall, and public infrastructure routinely fails. Leaders in impoverished nations make calculated choices to keep their citizens poor. A nation's prosperity is dictated by its institutions, the rules and systems that govern society. In many struggling countries, powerful elites design these institutions to benefit themselves by intentionally suppressing the broader population. If we want to understand global inequality, we have to look past the economic data and investigate the mechanics of political power. Throughout history, the most common way to organize a society is through extractive institutions. These systems concentrate power into the hands of a narrow elite. The entire structure is built to siphon resources from the masses directly to the top. You might wonder why a dictator wouldn't want a wealthier population. A richer country, after all, yields more taxes. The answer lies in a concept called creative destruction. True economic growth requires technological innovation and free markets, but innovation allows everyday citizens to generate wealth and gain influence. To an extractive ruling class, a thriving, independent middle class represents a direct threat to their political monopoly. This fear is well documented. When the Industrial Revolution offered the potential for massive economic growth, the politically powerful in several nations actively blocked it. Absolute monarchs banned the construction of railways and factories because they knew industrialization would bring social mobility and destabilize their grip on the population. Suppressing innovation serves as a highly rational survival strategy for an extractive ruler. The alternative is an inclusive institution. Here, political power is pluralistic. It is distributed broadly across society, and the government is restrained by checks and balances. The economic engine of an inclusive system is secure property rights. When citizens have a legal guarantee that they can build a business and actually keep the wealth they generate, they have the incentive to work. The economy expands through new ideas. We can trace this divergence back to the colonial era. The early institutional foundations laid in North America established broad land ownership and early political assemblies. Those rules laid the groundwork that eventually embraced the Industrial Revolution, pulling the United States ahead of nations rooted in forced labor and resource extraction. But inclusive systems are fragile. They face constant pressure from individuals attempting to consolidate wealth and tilt the rules in their favor. During the Gilded Age, massive corporate monopolies worked to suffocate competition and buy political influence. Inclusive systems survive through a defense mechanism called the virtuous circle. Because political power is distributed, citizens use free media and the voting booth to push back. They break up monopolies and rewrite rules to maintain a level playing field. Inclusive institutions work because they legally align the self-interest of the individual with the long-term prosperity of the entire nation. There's a notable exception. Extractive, authoritarian regimes can generate temporary economic growth. Between 1928 and 1960, the Soviet Union industrialized, producing staggering economic output. They achieved this extractive growth through sheer force. The government manually reallocated resources, ordering millions of laborers out of agriculture and into heavy industry. This top-down command generates a surge in production. This type of boom has a shelf life. Because the state outlaws independent thought and bans creative destruction, the economy eventually runs out of easy resources to reallocate. It hits a wall and stagnates. Authoritarian regimes can mimic prosperity for a few decades, but they cannot sustain it. Top-down control suffocates human ingenuity. If extractive machines are so deeply guarded by elites, how does any nation break out of poverty? The opportunity arrives during a critical juncture. These are massive, unpredictable historical shocks: a global pandemic, shifting trade routes, or a sudden revolution. These events destabilize the ruling elite's grip on power. History is not predetermined. During these rare windows of chaos, citizens can form broad coalitions, demand pluralism, and permanently shift the trajectory of their institutions. Technical economic fixes and cash transfers often leave the underlying political rot untouched. Because they fail to confront the extractive machine, they cannot move the needle on long-term poverty. Economic freedom is impossible without political freedom. To ensure a nation actually thrives, the public must aggressively keep the powerful in check.